Are you ready?
The Class 458-4 Juniper is a 4-car-long British electric multiple unit. This is the first of a sub-series of videos I'll be doing called Round 2, where we will take a look at a previously reviewed train that has been altered, such as a refurbishment or different services, and observe if the changes have made the train any better or worse. In this video, we'll see how the 458-4 compares to its previous refurbishment, as well as comparing it with the trains that it's directly replacing. Well, sort of. More info later. The basic idea proposed a few years ago for the 458-4 was to reconfigure the units to run on London to Portsmouth Express services, instead of the current Metro and Windsor Line commuter routes. The units were to be given a new interior, reduced to 4 coaches, and once the program is complete, 28 Class 458s will be running to Portsmouth Harbour, taking pressure off the Class 444 and 450. Some of you may be thinking, wait a second, there are 36 Class 458s. What will happen to the other 8 trains? To which I have the answer for you. Either way, existing services on the Windsor lines would no longer need to use the Julian, allowing them to be taken over by Just Kidding. Those Portsmouth service plans were dropped in early 2024, partway during the refurbishment of the trains, which is like building a high-rise tower block and deciding that you want a 3-bedroom semi just as the builders have reached the 12th floor. Nobody knew what was going to happen with the 458 for several months, until it was announced that the trains would be returning to the exact same routes as before, just now with 4 cars instead of 5, and still retaining the regional specifications. It's so impressive to see the evolution of suburban trains in southwest London. 4-car trains used to be the meta, increasing to 8 coaches when you were lucky. Then we finally got 10-car trains running, which were aided by a plethora of platform extensions, the Class 456, the 458-5 and the 70707070707 to help boost capacity. But lol no. Throw these trains away and cut those services too whilst we're at it, because South Western Railway's most important stakeholder is the problem blob from the numberjacks, and he seems to have quite a strong influence on how the railway is becoming. And whilst the 701s will bring back the sensible idea of 10-car trains running again, keep in mind how long the delay was for those trains, how long they've been in service for, and how many of them are actually in service carrying passengers. Also, let's not forget that these trains are partially why the railway strikes on South Western Railway happened. Now, it is worth mentioning that the Portsmouth service plan was originally going to be filled in by a fleet of 18 resurrected Class 442s, which would have also been refurbished to similar standards as the 458-4, plus retractioning and new braking systems to improve performance and reliability. However, this multi-million-pound company hated spending money on their employees, let alone fixing their trains and running a reliable train service. So partway into this refurbishment, they were all donated to the scrap god. I should also state that both of these changes took place before the Class 701 carried a single passenger. So make of that what you will. I'm not exactly an MLG Mammoths pro or anything, but I fail to see how spending £32 million refurbishing old trains, throwing them away to supposedly save £8 million a year, spending another £25 million on refurbishing another set of trains, then not sticking to the original plans of these trains either, can in any way be seen as a sensible investment or valuable allocation of time and resources. Anyway, back to the trains. The overall appearance of the Juniper montage with the new livery suits it quite well, and I really appreciate the highlights and surrounds on the doors, making it more vibrant as to where first class and the disabled access is. Upon observing clips that were filmed by my friend earlier in the year in Scotland, I've noticed that ScotRail have done something similar to their fleet of trains, and I really think these colors should be used across the whole country as a national standard. Also, hello to the first ScotRail cameo in these videos. Your time for reviewing will come soon. Performance has been altered too, with the commuter gearing reversed back to main line, regaining the janitor's original top speed of 100 miles per hour. This will really help with the 60 miles per hour line speeds along the Hounslow Loop, and the whopping 70 miles per hour sections on the London to Reading lines. The stretched gearing makes the train sound slightly different, but it's only noticeable side by side honestly. So what is the Dash 4 Juliet like to ride on? The 2+2 seating layout of before has been retained, including the all-stem appropriate window alignment, but with brand new Fieseline seats, similar to what the Class 745 has. Charging points, armrests and larger tables are now present too, but the seats themselves feel a bit odd. The padding on the base is good enough, but the back of the seat and the headrest felt rather hard to the touch. It wasn't too comfortable to sit in, and honestly, they felt worse than the previous Juniper seats. The armrests and charging points are still very much welcomed though. I also must give commendations to the sheer amount of legroom you get in these seats. The space you get is unrivaled, and it's great to see that South Western Railway are catering to those cruising in Clapham Common. If you didn't notice already, carpets have been fitted as well, which is nice, as long as nobody spills their drinks on it. There are no grab poles through the interior, making it slightly easier to walk through, but also making standing in the middle of the train more of a hassle than previously. The lack of 1+1 seating near the vestibules also reduces standing room, which any passengers using Vauxhall Station can vouch and say is a non-issue. Audio and visual announcements are the same as before, including the same announcer voice and the pathetic scrolling speed that lags behind the poorly spliced voice recordings. I guess competently designed passenger information displays weren't part of the refurbishment deal. One criticism that has been around with the 458 was the slightly loud door alarms, and I'm happy to report that this has not been rectified. First class has been re-added in the driving coaches. The door button was much lower than before for some weird reason, but whatever. The seats may be the same shape as standard, but they are instead covered with a Tesco own brand leather, in a poor attempt to justify the inclusion of first class on board. By the way, the routes this train is now running on have first class declassified, rendering its inclusion pointless. Honestly, they feel worse than the standard class seats as they aren't any more comfortable than before. The only beneficial upgrade you get is wireless charging on the large tables, perfect to charge my camera with. Never mind. To be more serious, I did try charging my phone on it, but the wireless charging did not activate for some reason. My phone is compatible, but I have no idea why it wasn't working. Wireless charging to me is borderline witchcraft anyway. 2 toilets are provided on board the Chillum, one of which is accessible for the disabled, and has baby changing facilities. Both are located towards the center of the train, and are pretty much exactly the same as before. As in they couldn't be bothered to repaint or replace the handles and push buttons for them. Both feel like they haven't been improved since the late 90s, and their reliability remains as what you would expect for something built in Birmingham. The disabled space near the large toilet has been butchered, with the 4 folding seats thrown in the bin for some unknown reason. Don't say that this is because the seat designs don't allow for folding seats. If the Stadler Flirt can manage to have folding seats in the wheelchair space, there's no excuse why this train can't. Speaking of things that are lacking, where is the bicycle storage area? There isn't a dedicated space to store your Halford's bike, and because there's no area of 1+1 seating, your only options for bike storage are to use the wheelchair space or place it in front of the doors like a noob. Why is it that every single train that South Western Railway has operated, past or present, gets to have a dedicated wheelchair and bicycle storage space, except the Gillian? This also includes the 442, which not only had a bicycle storage area, but a wheelchair space with folding seats right by them as well. This is Armstrong powerhouse levels of inconsistency, and I'm starting to lose my patience here. What moron was in charge of designing these trains? I'm not even going to bother about the Jupiter's future. Clearly anything goes here. And if I woke up to find out they were getting sent to run in Strasbourg, I would just laugh. So let's jump into the conclusion. This time I have a pair of questions to answer. The first is asking if this train is better than the previous 458 iteration on the Metro and Windsor lines.
Nope.
Don't misunderstand me, the charging points are seriously welcomed, but the 458s run on routes that frequently get overcrowded during the peak. Reducing standing room and the maximum formation from 10 to 8 just makes the train handle these common issues more poorly than before. Now let's hop into an alternate timeline where these trains are actually running on the Portsmouth Direct Line. Would I say they are suitable for these services instead? Slightly. Obviously the 444 outright nukes the Juniper in terms of acceleration, comfort, and reliability. On the other hand, I don't like riding the 450s that end up running on these lines due to its gay 3+2 seating, so I would say that the 458-4 is slightly better than that at least. However, even assuming the 442 was sent to the scrap god in this timeline, I have a better idea for where the Juniper should run instead. Put these trains on those outer urban lines that don't run to and from London. These feeder and shuttle services rarely exceed 4 coaches anyway, and putting the Jupiter on the Portsmouth to Southampton service with its 0.5 second turnaround times would help take pressure off the 450s that are forced to run on them, which would allow for more demanding trains going to and from London to run as 8 or even 12 car trains when they really need it. That would be a more sensible decision if you ask me, but I guess South Western Railway enjoy having rolling stock shortages, resulting in them running the class 455 to Reading again. Frankly, it's embarrassing to see how so many trains and buses First Group have constantly ruined over the years, but this is what a lack of planning gets you. Hopefully something smart can be done with these trains in the future. Oh, who am I kidding? Now you know my thoughts on the 458-4. Go out there and remember that every time you make a mean comment about the Jupiter, Yowie casts an African hex to brutally kill a baby seagull in Richmond. So think of those seagulls next time you be mean about extremely unreliable and poorly built trains.